All right, so tight ends that I think are probably low end tight end twos this week are Theo Johnson, Jawan Johnson, Jordan Akins, Greg Dulcich, and Tucker Kraft. With Theo Johnson, after recording an 18-yard catch, I believe, in week one, he was shut out in week two. It is a friendly matchup. I think that Daniel Jones does find him for a couple passes this game. I don't project a touchdown, but I do like him for the future, and especially down the stretch this season, I think he's going to get more involved. It's really hard to project that much from a rookie tight end. It's one of the hardest positions in the NFL to learn as a rookie because you're an offensive lineman and a wide receiver. That's a lot of work. With Jawan Johnson, it isn't the most inviting matchup against Philadelphia. He went off in week one though, and so with all these tight ends, if they end up scoring a touchdown, they're going to finish much higher than this. But I just don't project a touchdown from any of these players. With Jordan Akins, it's a very friendly matchup against the Giants. He is going to be their tight end with David Njoku out this week, but I don't think they're going to need to pass the ball that much, to be honest with you. I think they're going to run the ball quite extensively. And so I also don't project a touchdown. With Greg Dulcich, it's an incredibly uninviting matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's very talented. It's just not a friendly matchup, and him and Bo Nix don't have an incredible connection yet, and the offense is just kind of a mess right now. But a very good player, and for the future, I do like him. With Tucker Kraft against Tennessee, he is the established tight end one now. He is going to play in this game reportedly. I think he's going to have Jordan Love back. And so I do think that it is a tough matchup against the Titans. The Titans are an incredible defense this season, but he's in a great offense. And if he's your tight end too, if you're dealing with an injury, if say you had David Njoku, but you also had Kraft as your backup, you're doing pretty decent if he's your tight end too. There just are better matchups you could probably utilize this week. All right, so tight ends that I think are mid tight end twos to potentially high end tight end twos are Chig, Taysom Hill, Cole Kmet, Noah Fant, and Zach Ertz. Now, these tight ends just don't have great matchups, and Noah Fant has a terrible matchup. With Chig, he scored a touchdown in week one. I think he is a little bit touchdown dependent because he doesn't get the volume that he deserves in Tennessee. I hope he leaves for greener pastures. On another offense, he would definitely be a very good tight end. And so, yeah, I don't think he gets a touchdown this week, but I think he gets a couple chunk gains. With Taysom Hill, I want to put him higher because on a week-to-week basis, this guy has an incredible amount of upside because he's a running back, tight end. He can be a wide receiver, and he's even a quarterback, a fullback too, actually. We just haven't seen one of those blow-up games yet, so until we start seeing a couple of those, because he is a very streaky player, when you see one of those blow-up weeks, he usually follows it up with, maybe two or three. And so until we start seeing that, he's going to be a little bit further down, but he is a very high upside play any given week. With Cole Kmet, I like the Bears offense this week a lot more than I'm going to like them most weeks until we start seeing a little bit more consistent decency from them. But not the best matchup. The Colts linebackers are pretty good. And so I think that it's really just that there are a couple of tight ends that would be further ahead of him that are out. And so you could definitely do better because it's not that he isn't talented. It's just that the volume isn't there because they're not able to sustain drives. I think they have a little bit more luck. And so I think we have a better game than we have in especially week one from him. But I don't think there are definitely higher upside plays. With Noah Fant, it's a brutal matchup against Miami. I don't like that. But I do like the Ryan Grubb offense, and I think better days are ahead for him. I think he's going to have a couple huge games. I just don't project a touchdown from him this week, and so I think he gets a couple grabs. With Zach Ertz against the Cincinnati Bengals, not a great matchup. Zach Ertz is still underrated. He's a lot better than people think, even though Trey McBride kicked him out, but that's because Trey McBride is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I think that they are going to have to throw the ball a ton to stay in this game with Cincinnati, and so I think he's a decent bet for a good amount of volume, but I also don't think he scores a touchdown this week. All right, so if you like what you're seeing so far, please feel free to like and subscribe. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. I detail out what I project the offensive statistics to be for every offensive player in all of the games in every given week besides the Thursday night games. And so, yeah, once again, liking and subscribing is a free and easy way to support the channel. Thanks. All right, so tight ends that I think are probably tight end twos that have a chance to be tight end ones if they happen to score are Isaiah Likely, Colby Parkinson, and Brenton Strange. With Isaiah Likely, we saw the massive upside that he possesses in week 1. Whenever Andrews is out, this guy is a safe bet to be a top 10 tight end every given week. He's incredibly talented. We just have to see more 12 personnel utilization from the Ravens, and I'd really like it if they would start giving him a higher percentage of the targets. He's really good. It isn't a good matchup against Dallas, though, and so there definitely are better options out there, but he is a very high upside play this week because it's probably going to be a relatively high scoring game. As much as I love the Ravens, I don't think their defense is going to be able to shut down the Dallas Cowboys offense. And so I think they are going to have to score points to stay in this game. With Colby Parkinson, it is a terrible matchup. Fred Warner is one of the best linebackers in the league. However, the Rams are without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. They are without two of their starting offensive linemen as well, so it's a risky play, but he is a good bet to get a good amount of volume. And in this barren tight end landscape, I mean, even elite projected tight ends aren't getting volume. If you can get a tight end with projected volume, you are probably better off starting them. And so I think there are better options, but not too many this week. With Brenton Strange, he finished with, I believe it was 3 receptions for 65 yards in week 2 when Evan Ingram was a surprise inactive after sustaining a hamstring injury. Evan Ingram isn't projected to play this week, and so I think Brenton Strange is a very high upside play. He looked really good when Evan Ingram was out. It's an inviting matchup against Buffalo, and he received 6 targets as well. And so if he can get another 6-target game, this guy's probably a low-end tight end 1 at the worst because tight ends are just not getting the volume this year. All right, so tight ends that I think are probably low-end tight end ones this week are Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Schultz, and Kincaid. With Freiermuth, I think he finishes as a low-end tight end 1 on the back of 5 catches. I think he finishes with 45 receiving yards. I don't think he scores this week, but it's very hard to find tight ends that get decent volume, and so I think he is going to get a good amount of volume in this game. And if you don't have one of the better options, I think you probably got to play him. All right, so with Dalton Schultz, he's only received 3 targets in each of the first 2 games. I think he probably finishes with around 6 to 7 because I think Bobby Slowick is probably going to want to exploit this matchup against Minnesota. And so I think he finishes with a couple more targets than we've seen in the previous 2 weeks. There are better tight ends to play, but he has the ability to have massive games in this Texans offense. That really can't be understated, but we just haven't seen one of those blow-up games yet. With Dalton Kincaid, what a surprise. It is only 2 weeks, but man, I projected him to finish with the most targets of all the tight ends, and I also projected Evan Ingram to finish with the second most, so it has been a little bit of a surprise so far, to be honest with you. It isn't a good matchup against Jacksonville either. Devin Lloyd is not a joke. But if you have him at tight end, he's connected to Josh Allen, and you're probably still playing him. Yeah, better days will be ahead for him, don't get me wrong, but it's been a very big surprise to say the least. All right, so tight ends that I think you're starting, I don't think you can afford to sit any of them, are Travis Kelce, Goddard, Pitts, Ferguson, Andrews, Laporta, McBride, and Bowers. With Travis Kelce, it's been reported that he's going to receive more action this week. It's an easy matchup against the Atlanta Falcons, and so while he's definitely lost a step, I think he's still one of the better tight ends, despite the fact that he really hasn't received the volume that we would have expected. And it's such a barren landscape once again that you're probably starting him. And yeah, we might see a high upside week, but because we haven't seen it so far, I do have a couple tight ends ahead of him. With Goddard, I think it's going to be an absolutely high-scoring game against the New Orleans Saints, and so I think he's a good bet to get a good amount of volume this week. With Kyle Pitts, I was expecting a ton more volume, just like with Dalton Kincaid, but we haven't seen it so far. He is talented. I can see him getting open a good amount of the time. It is the most inviting matchup. Kansas City allows the most points to tight end so far, although some of that is because Isaiah Likely had such a massive performance. But still, I think that he is incredibly talented. I do think more volume is coming. It is honestly a little bit concerning that we haven't seen it so far, though. With Jake Ferguson, I think we're going to finally see a good game from him again. He plays against Baltimore. Baltimore is no match for him. And so I think that he has a decent game. With Mark Andrews, I think he's going to start seeing a couple more targets finally, a couple more weeks removed from that car accident. It is an inviting matchup against Dallas. And so I think he gets a good amount of catches this game, but I don't project a touchdown. With Sam Laporta, he's playing against Arizona, so it's not a friendly matchup. I do think he gets a touchdown, but I don't think he's going to see the volume that we saw from him this past season. It appears as though JMO is receiving that volume, although you wouldn't expect targets from a tight end to go to a wide receiver. And I can't necessarily substantiate that, but I think that's what's happening. Regardless, though, he's still really talented and in a great offense, and I do think he ends up scoring this week. I just don't think we're going to see the volume from him. At least we haven't this season so far. With Trey McBride, it is a bad matchup against Detroit, against Jack Campbell, but he is getting a massive volume. Him and Brock Bowers are easily getting the most volume of any tight end so far, and so he's a must-start, regardless as to who he's facing. I don't think he scores this week, but I have him projected for 7 for 81, and so I think he's a very good bet to get you a good amount of points, and it's, unless you have Brock Bowers also, I don't think you have a better option. And with Brock Bowers, it's a smash spot against the Panthers. Now, I don't have him projected to score a touchdown, but if he does, he's going to have a crazy game this week. He's hit the ground running so far. He's a volume-driven monster in this offense. He's really good. And yeah, it turns out that despite being in probably the worst situation he could have found himself in, he's still an elite tight end 1. Props to you if you selected him, because you were taking a huge risk considering generally how first-year tight ends produce, especially given what was projecting to be a poor situation. But if you took him in redraft, I mean, really, congrats to you. And if you have him in Dynasty, hold on to him. All right, so tight ends that I think are probably low-end tight end 2s that could maybe be mid to high-end tight end 2s are Theo Johnson, Jawan Johnson, Jordan Akins, Greg Dulcich, and Tucker Kraft. Tight ends that I think are probably mid to high-end tight end 2s are Chig, Taysom Hill, Cole Kmet, Noah Fant, and Zach Ertz. Tight ends that I think are probably high-end tight end 2s to potentially low-end tight end 1s that if they score a touchdown will be tight end 1s are Isaiah Likely, Colby Parkinson, and Brenton Strange. Tight ends that I think are either too talented or in too good of a situation to have any lower than this, that I think will be tight end 1s, and if they score will be solid tight end 1s, are Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Schultz, and Dalton Kincaid. And tight ends that I think are going to be tight end 1s that are really talented and you probably can't afford to bench are Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, and Brock Bowers. All right, so you know the drill. Who do I have too high? Who do I have too low? Is there anybody I missed from this list of the top 24 remaining tight ends? Please let me know below in the comment section and let me know why. With that being said, make sure you check out my quarterback, running back, and wide receiver rankings. Make sure that your lineups are set. Make sure there are no inactive players in your lineups. I wish everyone a good week. Hope you all smash your matchups. And if you like what you've seen so far, please feel free to like and subscribe. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. Thank you and have a good day.